Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I am your host, Brian Scott. Recently, I was contacted by a good friend of the group who was really struggling financially and continued to use the word security, claiming they wanted security in their life, financial security. So I started to contemplate financial security and what it means and how you can bring financial security in this constantly changing world. So let's talk about it. Security is one of the most talked about things in the world today. Every day in the news reports, there are discussions of how nations are going about the business of securing themselves. Families plan for security by putting bars on the windows and locks on the doors. Individuals give a lot of attention to such things as insurance of various kinds, investing in stocks and bonds, contributing to nest egg savings programs, and retirement annuities. Everyone longs for the feeling expressed by the Psalmist, "My heart is fixed, O God, my heart is fixed, I will sing and give praise." Is this kind of security possible? If so, how do we achieve it? It depends upon what we think that security is. If we are thinking of security in terms of protective barriers and a continuous provision for food, clothing, shelter, heat, light, and medical care, then, and this may seem shocking, the most secure individual is a life-term convict in a penitentiary. Almost everything is cared for, thus he or she has little to worry about. He or she has real security, but at such a great price. Most public opinion surveys indicate that the one thing most people desire in life, more than anything else, is security. This is a sad commentary on a contemporary value. Professor Peter Bartocci of Boston University has said, "It may be that any view of life that puts security rather than creativity first has misread life at its best, and thus misinterprets the cosmic process." This is not to suggest that the desire for security is wrong or that we shouldn't seek ways of achieving it. It is simply that when we place the emphasis on outer things, we miss the whole meaning of life. Life is for expressing, for growth and expansion. There are two basic drives within every person, human and divine. Humanly, we seek to settle down, to be safe, to build fences, and to be secure. Divinely, we are created to express, to grow, and to extend our horizons. If we had not risen above the human inclination to be safe at all costs, we would still be living in caves, if indeed the human race would still be living at all. In the early days of life on Earth, Homo sapiens were surrounded by great beasts with superb built-in defenses. Tusks, hides, claws, wings, shells, and tremendous brute strength. The human creatures, seemingly so inadequate, so helpless, survived because their defense was in their creative ability, in the intuitive flow of ideas in their spiritual dimension, no matter how primitive was it showing. If humankind had always tried simply to be safe at all costs, there would have been no Moses leaving the comfort of Egypt to lead his people through a vast wilderness and into their promised land. There would have been no Columbus braving uncharted seas to discover a new world. When people think only of being safe, they stifle the urges of personal growth and advancement. People in the study of truth often enroll in courses on how to demonstrate affluence and even how to become a millionaire. Unfortunately, the appeal is geared to the acquisitive instinct. What the writers and teachers who talk so glibly of the millionaire consciousness tend to conveniently overlook is that the millionaire models they use to a person achieved their great affluence, not because of a desire to find security, because they were entrepreneurs, risk takers, and adventurers who launched out beyond the barriers of accepted limitations. Someone has said, and it could well have been one of these models, that the best way to be safe is never to be secure. What are we saying? That we should not take out insurance or save or invest our money? Not at all. Actually, security is more psychological than financial. Feeling is the key. Whatever financial measures we take, if we are motivated by fear or anxiety, then we mine our roadway into the future with booby traps. But if we plan and conserve and keep our thoughts centered in God as our limitless resource of good, then our way will be filled with success and fulfillment. It depends on what we are thinking when we do what we do. As the Bible says, "Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it." Psalms 127:1. As a student of truth, you may have been perplexed about the matter of insurance, when the emphasis is normally on divine protection and stepping out on the promises in faith. It would seem to be a kind of backsliding to take out policies for life or fire or economic assistance. The salesperson may outline to you all the cataclysmic things that could happen to you, and of course for which he or she would like to insure you. You may be confused between the very practical matter of financial protection and the idea of trusting in the divine process. Let's face it, there is no such thing as complete insurance coverage. Highly insecure people trying to prepare for every conceivable exigency become insurance poor in the attempt. If you have this kind of anxiety, this unbridled fear of anything and everything that might happen down the road, then you need insurance, and you need it badly. Why? Because the condition you fear will probably happen. It is a universal law that the patterns you hold in mind tend to influence circumstances. Living in an insurance-conscious culture, it may be wise to have at least minimal insurance coverage in the major areas of life. This because we tend to absorb from the race consciousness, as by osmosis, the kind of thought patterns posed by insurance people. Jesus, in referring to the tax liability, said, "Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's." Matthew 2:2-1. It is good to start off on an automobile trip with 4 good tires and a spare tire so you can relax and enjoy the journey. The spare tire is not a symbol of fear, but rather an evidence of wisdom and good planning. How people may insist that they put their trust in God and in no other agency, and that they do not need and will not accept insurance, and other than automobile insurance, which may be required in some states. We bless them in their stand. However, a word of caution. There's a great difference between wanting to believe and really believing. Recall the honesty of the man who asked Jesus for help. "I believe, help my unbelief." Mark 9:24. All too often people refuse to face up to their hidden unbelief and willfully follow a self-delusive course of independence, not accepting the responsibility for their affairs, and without the consciousness of divine protection, they leave their health care or financial welfare to others or to society, which is a kind of irresponsible behavior. In practical matters, it is wise to listen to your consciousness and not just to your ideals. Often someone will ask, "Should I have an operation as prescribed by my doctor, or should I trust in God to heal me?" It is a puzzling question to which we offer a startling answer. God doesn't heal. God is life. Consciousness heals as it accepts the flow of life. If you have a deep-seated fear about your condition, it is not likely that you will be able to accept the healing life flow. Lacking in the consciousness of oneness with the ever-present activity of God, you might be well advised to follow your doctor's guidance. Again, listen to your consciousness. Let no one decide for you whether or not you should have an operation. It is your life, governed by your state of mind. If you really believe, then press on with the courage of your convictions. However, don't delude yourself. If there are fears or anxious concerns, then you have unbelief, and you should consider following some physical course of action. The same holds true in the matter of insurance. God will protect, of course. Actually, God is a protecting force, which is ever present. You live and move and have being under the shadow of the Almighty. It is present, all present as a presence. You can never be outside its influence. If you can live in the consciousness of this presence, you literally take on a protective mantle, and nothing untoward can happen around you or to you. However, if you're not centered in that consciousness, or at least are not able to long sustain it, then perhaps it is wise to take the spare tire, and thus to employ some minimal kind of insurance. Then you can relax and let go and have faith. Again, let no one tell you what you should do. Listen to your consciousness honestly and follow its leading courageously. How should one consider investments in planning for financial security? Investments are a wise use of one's resources, even as it is important that you engage in some form of work. So it is also wise to let your money work too. Again, motivation is the key. Why do you want to invest your money? If you're gambling or trying to make a killing on the stock market, you are trying to take a shortcut to wealth and security, which inevitably will be self-defeating. Whatever you do in the way of investment, do it out of consciousness of the divine flow. Keep yourself centered in God so that you do not flutter like a flag in the breeze when the Dow Jones report is published every day. Keep your faith in the continuity of God's ever-present substance, no matter what the conditions of the market in general, or your stock in particular, or inflation. You might use this affirmation: I give thanks to God as the source of my supply, and I bless. And you can name whatever investment is. So, and I bless my stocks as a channel through which it may manifest. Students who ask questions about saving, isn't the practice negative? Why should I save if I'm a child of God, supported by the universe like the lily of the field? Once again, it is the motivation that is key. If you save for a rainy day, then it will undoubtedly rain buckets, and often. Job discovered a great truth that he admitted, that the thing that I fear comes upon me. Job 3:25. Why do you feel that you should save? Is it because you are afraid of tomorrow? Is it because you doubt the sufficiency of the ever-present substance of the universe? Actually, saving is a mature practice. All nature saves. The physical body is a self-conserving process. Note how the Great Lakes of the world conserve water to sustain the Earth's flora all year around. So we can see that saving is natural and it is orderly. However, get the high vision. Save for opportunities, not for emergencies. You may continue to do what you have been doing, but with a new attitude. Let your savings program be a divinely ordered process. Even as a bank or other agency keeps watch over your funds, it is your responsibility to keep watch over your thoughts. If you commence or continue in any program out of the thought that this nest egg will tide me over if something should happen, and you are engaging in an emergency consciousness, you may actually be creating an environment in which such things can happen. Save by all means. It will enable you to avail yourself of positive opportunities that may from time to time unfold. Again, save not for emergencies, but for opportunities. However, it is important that you clearly understand this. You can't get a prosperity consciousness on the stock market. You can't achieve true security through insurance. And you won't get rich simply by saving your money. But if you work diligently to establish yourself in the consciousness of the divine flow of substance, actually get the feeling that you live in the boundless sea of affluence, then by the steadying and supporting influence of this consciousness, your assets may surely grow through investment. Your affairs may be cared for by insurance, and your wisely planned savings may become a vehicle for prosperity. But remember, the rich mentality will not come because of your financial involvements. It must come first out of your steady effort to know God as your supply. Seek first His kingdom, Matthew 6:33. Seek first to get the awareness of the allness of substance. Out of that awareness, you will feel secure. This feeling will give rise to the ideas and the guidance by which you invest your money or decide on insurance and so on, but you do what you do out of a consciousness of security. Now, I've said substance several times so far in this episode. To backtrack, we go to the book, The Science of Getting Rich. The main idea in that is that all the universe and space around you is this divine substance. This substance is the key to your prosperity. You guide it, you program it, and you can change it. And you are a part of this substance. This is the substance I'm talking about. Now, a few thoughts about retirement programs and annuities, along with the government provision for the IRA, individual retirement account. There is much talk about the need for some form of retirement program. Much of it presents the negative image of old age and the out to pasture kind of uselessness. Get out of the retirement business. Not that you shouldn't make changes in your life work and your lifestyle, but by all means plan for changes and for new beginnings. However, always think creativity and involvement. Never let yourself get into a position where you are out of it. Don't fall into the Sunbelt condominium syndrome. You can't live meaningfully and creatively on a shuffleboard court. I personally will never retire. I will never, ever retire. When my dad retired, that was it. It was done. Within a very short period of time, he started to get dementia and seemingly was giving up on life. His desires and hopes were gone. There was no reason for him to live, and his consciousness had changed dramatically. In a recent study of centenarians, it was discovered that there was not one retired to-do-nothing person who lived to be 100. Not one. You may say that you're not concerned about living to be 100. Perhaps not, but are you interested in remaining alive and vital as long as you live? The life change of retirement may be good for you, but only if it is seen not as an end, but as a redirection of activities and interests. One must work diligently at the continuing process of keeping the whole self alive and fully functioning. The truth is, we do not grow old when we stop growing. We are old. One man was cleaning up his work at his desk on a Friday evening when he noticed an envelope that had not been opened. Apparently, it had been placed there while he was on the telephone. He opened it and read to his shock and dismay a notice of termination. His entire department was being eliminated, and his position along with it. After all the years he had given to this corporation, he found himself filled with resentment and a sense of injustice. Long past his planned time of departure, the man sat slumped in his chair in utter despair and defeat. It has been said that the experience of retirement is the greatest shock the system can sustain. He thought through all the terrible things that could happen to him. He would have to sell his house and alter his whole way of life. He was not really prepared financially for retirement, and yet he was at an age normally considered too old to get another job. The specter of lack, poverty, and destitution hovered on the horizon. Even more severe was the shock of feeling that he was no longer needed, useless, through, washed up. He noticed a spider on the desk and he unconsciously brushed it off. Suddenly, he was watching in amazement as the tiny creature automatically spun a strand to bear its weight and swung gracefully to the floor. He began to wonder why, if this tiny creature could draw forth from within itself a reserve of substance to meet its emergency, why could he not do as much? For many hours, he sat deep in troubled thoughts that turned gradually to creative meditation. Finally, the conviction came that the source of his supply, his security, was not in jobs or money or house or lands, but in his oneness with the allness of infinite mind. He might be taken from a payroll, but no one could cut him off from the intuitive flow of his own mind. This, he realized, was his real lifetime. This man was of an artistic nature. Being forced to do office work had always irked him. Figuratively, he had been earning his livelihood by the sweat of his brow. In his spare time, he had done a little writing, which occasionally found publication. He had secretly longed for the opportunity to write for a living. Now he realized was that opportunity. So a whole new frame of mind took possession of him. He blessed his retirement and thanked God for the new door that had opened before him. He left the office with a buoyancy and confidence that surprised even himself. It would be good to report that the man went on to great success as a writer. Real life isn't made up of great success and great failure, but of an infinite number of levels of living in between, and true greatness depends more on inner overcomings than outer achievements. Our man did accomplish some great things within himself. He gained a new sense of self-mastery, a new sense of satisfaction and happiness, and he did enough good writing to earn a few checks each month, enough to more than double his half-pay retirement income. The key to this story also is that when you have insecurities come up, get fired from your job, you lose a large amount of money, as we learned from Think and Grow Rich in Napoleon Hill, that it is very hard to be prosperous and find ways to make money when you're scared, when you're concerned, and when you feel insecure. Sometimes this level of security can give you that prosperous way of thinking creatively. It's hard to be in a creative state of mind when you're not secure. The word secure comes from two small Latin words, se meaning without, and cure meaning care. Being without care. Freedom from anxiety. Victor Hugo articulates this very special sense in this lovely poem. Be like the bird, that pausing in her flight while on boughs too slight feels them give away beneath her and yet sings knowing she hath wings. You may be surrounded by grim forebodings of job layoffs and of deficit inflation and sure failure of Social Security. How good it is to remind yourself often that your security is not in bows too slight, but in your wings of faith, your intuitive relationship with the divine process which flows from within. In a changing world, you may not be able to keep difficulties from happening around you. You can't control the stock market or what happens to the dollar. Occasionally, figuratively speaking, you might even be in water over your head. But if you can swim, the deep water is not all that bad, is it? What is swimming but fun if you're not afraid of the water? In his immortal Sermon on the Mount, Jesus gives a timeless formula for security. You might profit immeasurably by meditating on these words every day. Do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add 1 cubit to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O men of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well. Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day own trouble be sufficient for the day. To reiterate, security is not found in things. You are not secure because of a bank account. You are not secure because of your investments or your possessions. Security can be experienced in one way only: by identifying yourself as a channel for the flow of infinite mind. Our ideas are the gold coin of the kingdom. Let me say that again. By identifying yourself as a channel for the flow of infinite mind, security can be experienced, and that's the only way. Ideas are the key. Ideas are the way that you find security. Ideas are literally little chunks of divine substance out of which we mold and fashion our good. Money may be depleted, things may wear or be lost or stolen, but ideas endure and recreate. And when you have the great idea in mind that you are an individualized expression of the universal flow, then truly, as Thoreau says, you may live with the license of a higher order of being. And you know this, really know it, that no matter how prices go up and stocks go down, Bitcoin goes up or goes down, no matter how rampant over the media are the rumors of recession and inflation and layoffs and shortages, you will not be affected. Antoinette Bourgeois made a great stir in the religious life of the 17th century France. When she was 18 years old, she resolved to give her life to God. Her family tried to dissuade her and finally attempted to force her into an unwelcome marriage. One morning, prompted by an inner voice, Antoinette ran away, taking with her nothing but 1 penny for bread. As she left, she heard a voice within saying, "Where is your faith? In a penny?" She reflected a moment, then laid it aside, saying, "No, Lord, my faith is in thee, and in thee alone." William James comments on this in his Varieties of Religious Experience. That penny was a small financial safeguard, but an effective spiritual obstacle. Where is your faith? Search yourself honestly. Is your faith in your penny, your bank account, your job, your insurance, your retirement annuities? You may say, well, one must be practical. Of course. But what are you really building your life upon? Can you take the rich young ruler test? Do you remember that young man of means who wanted to be a disciple? Jesus told him to go sell all he had and give the money to the poor, and then he could come and follow him. Jesus wasn't saying that we should not have money. What he was testing was for to determine if the man had the possession or if he was possessed by them. That the young man turned sorrowfully away would indicate the latter was the case. Are you willing to test yourself? Now, I'm creating a shield around your thoughts, and the following bit of imagination is not ruled by the law and will not be affected by the law of attraction. So, in this imagination, this is only temporary and it is not real. But close your eyes and imagine everything of value being swept away, leaving you completely destitute. Are you gripped with a cold fear? Where's your faith? It is a shocking test of consciousness, pinpointing the difference between your net worth and your net worthiness. You will invariably be anxious. Of course I would. I'd be scared to death about my own worth, but completely at peace over what I'm worthy of. In the Hebrew, the word for security is a word that literally means worthy. True security is in worthiness, not in worth. If you're completely locked into your money and possessions, your net worth, you may well be unconsciously trying to cover your unworthiness. And the more security you require to cover your unworthiness, the more you feel insecure. Thus, despite property, stock portfolio, and a good income, you live almost frantically attuned to the economic indicators, all because you have a secret sense of unworthiness. I have suffered from this, so that's how I am saying it. If you really feel worthy, you can let it all go and put the whole weight of your faith on the everlasting arms, as Joseph Murphy would say. If you find a deficiency through this test, you can do something about it. You can work diligently to build a consciousness of God as substance in which you live and move and have being. Now, all of what I asked you to imagine is not a part of the law, and we remove it. What you imagine creates reality. So what often happens is concerns about security end up becoming ways of imagining your own downfall. So security can help you in the way that you think and imagine, and it can also hurt. So you don't want to focus on what bad could happen, but what the good things that can happen. And imagine yourself, when you imagine prosperity, it's not about what you're protecting yourself from, what you're secure from. You're not secure so that you don't lose your house or you're not going hungry. You're imagining the wonderful opportunities that you can use this money to be of service to others, to help out others, to provide and travel and explore and expand your own consciousness. So there is a dichotomy when we talk about security, and it's important that you understand that you are secure. No matter what position you are in your life, you are secure, I promise. Even if you're completely broke and you die broke, you're still secure. Everything's going to be okay, I promise. You are within this divine substance and you have complete control over it. In the past, when I have lost everything, when I've struggled and been in deep debts, it's been the biggest lessons for me. I have seen an absolutely true example that all things are possible, but I would never have experienced those things if I hadn't gone through these incredibly terrible events. I would not have experienced this. I would not be able to share with you. I would not feel the desire to share it with you. It wouldn't be important to me, but I know what you're going through. I know how scary it is because it's everything. The money is everything. You got to have it to pay for your bills, to take care of your kids, to pay your rent. I know it's what you think about most of the time. I know. Let's not worry about the bad things that can happen, but let's get excited about the good things that are about to happen for you. Here is an affirmation treatment that I got from Eric Butterworth that is intended as a work assignment with this podcast. Speak it aloud. Go through it several times until you feel that you have grasped its essence in your consciousness. And finally, close your eyes and let the truth of the word sink into your inmost and deeper than conscious level of mind. You can say this with me, think it with me, become it. I am secure. For I know who I am, a richly endowed child of God. I am secure in all I do, for I know my oneness with the divine process. I am secure in all I have, for I know my treasure is in my mind, not in my things. I live my life from day to day as if God's supportive substance were as exhaustless and dependable as the air I breathe, which it most certainly is. Now you can say those words over and over, and as we've learned with the telecosmic power episode, you say that enough. When you say, I am secure, all the rest of it is a part of it. I am secure. So if you say those things, affirm your security, but don't make your security about protecting yourself from bad things happening. And don't get caught up in all the negative things happening in the world. I guarantee you, whatever time that you are listening to this, whatever part of the timeline, if this is 10 years from when I'm recording this, 5 years, whatever, there's something bad happening with the economy. There's something bad happening in the world, depending on the news that you digest. And so it's very easy for you to doom scroll as you go through your social media and say, oh, it's not looking good. Jobs are down. Inflation is up. Gas prices are up. It's all going to fall apart for me because of the world. I can't control it. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm not secure. But you are secure. You have the divine within you, and you are learning how to tune into the flow of this divine substance. And then once you do, you have all the faith in the world. You could lose everything tomorrow and gain it all back the next day. It is all yours, and all will work out for you perfectly. You have true security. You are worth the world. You created the universe, and never forget it. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. Powerful fourth density technologies. Images designed to magnetize and broadcast. Now available at newearth.art. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.